everyone. I'm Susan Mulvihill and welcome back to my vegetable garden. You know, it's late July, so it's time for another tour. Let me show you how all of the different crops are doing. This is the cabbage patch, and you might recall from my last video I mentioned how I'm covering it with a bridal veil fabric. It works really great. I can see what's going on in there and it gives pretty good air circulation. The heads are forming, which is very cool. Next bed used to have the garlic and the shallots in it. Now it has a cover crop, and as you can see, that's coming up really nicely. I've done that so that I can enrich the soil. Next bed is the carrots and the parsnips. They're growing pretty well. And then the next two beds are onions. I've been harvesting every other one for cooking so that I leave extra room for the remaining bulbs to have more room to grow into larger bulbs. Here's the lettuce patch. Now you can see some of them are trying to go to seed. Fortunately, they're not bitter, so I'm still harvesting them and also sharing a little bit with the chickens. And then down on the end of the bed, I've planted more lettuce seeds to give us a little bit longer harvest. Here's the potato bed. They're looking a little sad, but they're still growing. And I did put down a grass mulch a few weeks back so that anything developing at the surface of the soil won't get hit by the sun. Okay, right around here, it's mighty bright, but if you look, you can see this is the indigo rose tomato bed, and look at how beautiful those little tomatoes are. They're still very hard, so I think that they're not ripe. I'm really not sure when to harvest a dark purple rose or tomato. Okay, here is the pepper patch. They have been doing poorly with all of the changes in temperature, but as you can see, they're now growing quite nicely. I've got a lot of peppers on the plants, which is wonderful. And then down on the end here, the peas that used to be growing on this trellis have been harvested. They're done. And then I've got a little climbing zucchini here. I'll show you what those plants look like in another patch. Okay, now we're coming along to the beet and Swiss chard patch. They're doing really great. I need to be harvesting those beets and roasting them. Here's a bed that has 2/3 of it planted. We've got some carrots here, and then also dinosaur kale or lacinato kale. That is delicious. And those plants really grow tall, as you can see. Here's the zucchini patch. Now you might recall from previous videos I'm growing two types. One is Clarimore. Let's see if I can get you a little angle here. Let's see. Where's a good one? Right down behind here you can see one. There it is. But then what's really cool is on the back half of the bed on this wire grid, which is probably a little tricky for you to see, I'm growing trombone zucchini. And here's one right here. Aren't those cool looking? We grew them last year. They get quite a bit larger and they taste kind of like artichokes, which I think is great. Look how wonderful the leeks are growing. Plants are absolutely beautiful. And then down the middle, I've got peppers growing. Sorry for the shaky camera. And then this last bed in the middle row is the sunflower patch right next to the insect hotel. And they're just starting to bloom. Alrighty, we're heading around to the hoop house. That's where I'm growing melons. Let me show you a nice one. Here's one right here. How cool is that? That is a Tuscan Napoli cantaloupe. I grew them last year and they are to die for. Across the aisle, I've got cucumbers that are trying to take over the planet. As you can see, blooming like crazy. I obviously need a larger support than what I provided. And then this side also has a honeydew type of melon called Arava. And look, we grew these last year and they were absolutely fabulous. So I heartily recommend Arava. Okay, back out of the hoop house. Here are the purple TP beans. Beautiful flowers. They hold their beans mostly up above. A little bit easier harvesting. And they have been quite productive. I've had many plantings or pickings of them already. Here's the artichoke bed. These guys are very slow to get going, but I have high hopes. And then here is a couple more sunflowers. The funny thing is those were volunteers, which I was not expecting, but you know, sometimes you have to just go with the flow. And I also have a couple of rows of cover crops in there. Okay, here is the celery patch. They're doing great. Also some flat leaf parsley. And then, of course, I showed you last time my lovely bean trellis. A little hard to show you. Bear with me a second. Okay. Now we'll back up. Sorry, I'm not trying to make you seasick here. Okay, now you can kind of see it a little better. Got that morning sun. Anyway, if you look up at the top on the inside, you will see beans hanging down. I love this part of my garden. And we've had quite a few pickings of them already, which is great. They are so tender. It is called Italian snap bean. It is a pole bean. On the back side, I have a grafted tomato called Black Cherry. They're another one that's a little tricky to know when to harvest. And I can't decide if I like them yet or not. And then a little bit of basil on the back side. Okay, we're going to swing around here just to really make you dizzy and head to the back part of the garden where I have corn growing and actually ears on the stalks, which is very exciting. Give you kind of a little close-up here. And then we have the winter squash and a little extra summer squash growing here, as if I didn't have quite enough squash growing. A little more zucchini. And then here are, wait till you see this. This is the paste tomato bed, and as you can see, the plants are growing great. And I've got tomatoes on there. Two kinds. One is Big Zack. I told you about this on Facebook a while back, and they are supposed to be huge tomatoes, which is really something. We'll see if that's true. And then I also have an Amish paste tomato that's in here. Okay, so that's the official tour. A little bit of the asparagus and herb bed here. So I hope your vegetable garden is growing great. I hope you liked my little mini tour. And that's it for the Mulvihill vegetable garden in late July. Happy gardening.